Welcome, everybody, and good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Today is International Literacy Day, and I'm your host, Joy Owango, the Executive Director of the Training Center in Communication. The Training Center in Communication is a research capacity trust, and what we do is we support researchers, research institutes, academic institutes, and governments on how they can improve their research output and increase their visibility. So this is right in the middle of the of the activities that fall under International Literacy Day. And with us is our partners, the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. And we are going to have a discussion on how they are exploring illiteracy and prejudice against women. The representatives who are going to be with us in this webinar are from Zambia, Jordan, and South Africa. So without further ado, I'd like to give you an in-depth of what World Literacy Day is all about and why this webinar is really important. So International Literacy Day is an international observance celebrated each year on 8th September, that is today, and it was declared by UNESCO on 26th October 1966 at the 14th session of UNESCO's General Conference. It was celebrated for the first time in 1967, and its aim is to highlight the importance of literacy to individuals, communities, and societies. And celebrations take place in several countries, like what we are doing right now with our webinar. About 775 million lack minimum literacy skills, and 1 in 5 adults are still not literate, and 2/3 of them are women. 60.7 million children are out of school, and many more attend irregularly or drop out. According to UNESCO's Global Monitoring Report on Education for All, that was done in 2006, South Asia has the lowest regional adult literacy rate at 58.6, followed by Sub-Saharan Africa with 59.7. This report shows a clear connection between illiteracy and countries in severe poverty, and between illiteracy and prejudice against women, which is actually the focus of today's webinar. Today's webinar aims to address the issue of illiteracy and prejudice against women, which continues to persist in various parts of the world, particularly Sub-Saharan Africa. We strongly believe that literacy is essential for the growth and development of any society. However, illiteracy remains a considerable challenge, with women often being disproportionately impacted due to cultural and gender biases. This issue not only holds back women's personal growth, but also inhibits overall progress at a societal level. So as I'd said earlier, with us are members of the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World from the Zambia, Jordan, and South African chapters, who will take us through the activities that OWSD is conducting in their respective chapters in addressing the issue of illiteracy and prejudice against women. Our first speaker is Professor Rana Dajani from the OWSD Jordan chapter, and right now she's in Paris, and she's actually co-chairing a session in UNESCO Paris on similar event on a similar event on World Literacy Day, and she's going to take us through the activities that her chapter have been working on in mitigating illiteracy, but most importantly, also some of the activities she has been working on mitigating illiteracy in Jordan. Now, more about Professor Dajani. She is currently a visiting professor at the Systems Awareness Center at MIT and is a Moss Yale Fellow. Professor Rana is a molecular biologist, social entrepreneur, and global thought leader. She is the founder of We Love Reading, a grassroots initiative to create change makers in undeserved communities by fostering a lifelong love of reading. A recipient of the UNESCO International Literacy Prize, We Love Reading has established more than 4,000 locally run libraries in over 60 countries. Rana has been recognized as a Fulbright Fellow, Eisenhower Fellow, and Ashoka Fellow by joining the list of the 100 most influential Arab women and receiving the Jacobs Social Entrepreneur Award. The Jacobs Social Entrepreneur Award, the Nansen UHCR Refugee Award, and the Schwab Social Entrepreneur Award. Dajani is Professor Dajani is a professor of molecular biology at the Hashemite University in Jordan. Her area of expertise is epigenetics and biomarkers of trauma among refugees. Through her leadership, she has introduced national and regional stem cell laws and presided over numerous scientific boards and United Nations councils, most recently as the president of the Society of the Advancement of Science and Technology in the Arab world. A timeless supporter of building indigenous research capabilities in the developing world and creating a mentoring program to support women scholars in STEM that was recognized by the National Academy of Sciences. Her 2018 book on 5 scarves, Doing the Impossible, If We Can Reserve Self-Fate and Why Can't We Redefine Success, challenged global policymakers to address ongoing inequities in education and employment, while also putting forward a new paradigm for measuring success in an evolving world. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ms. Dajani. Over to you, Ms. Dajani.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Hello to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this amazing event. And together, hopefully, we will make a difference in this world to raise the bar and change how we are doing things. I'm trying to play my slides. Yes, there we go. So, and thank you for the introduction. I just want to remind everybody that I'm here, as all of you, to learn from each other. So if anyone has any questions or comments or critiques, to please put them in the chat or reach out to us later to share your insights and your reflections. Assalamu alaikum, peace upon you all, as we greet people in our part of the world. As was mentioned, I'm actually at UNESCO now. I'm the chair of the International Literacy Prize. I was the awardee in 2017, as you can see from the picture, and now I'm part of the jury. And today we will be presenting at 3 p.m. the 5 new awardees for the International Literacy Prize. I like to imagine that in the past, as humans were evolving, there were 2 groups of people. There was a group of people who sat around the fire and told stories, and there was another group of people who looked at those who were telling stories and frowned upon them, accusing them of wasting their time. But you can imagine which group actually survived. It was the storytellers. So in the spirit of evolution and storytelling, I'm going to share with you some stories through my journey, because stories are so powerful. And I start by, thank you for the introduction, but sometimes I like to take control and introduce myself. And I like to say that first and foremost, the most role I'm proud of doing is being a mother. I have 4 children, and I think that's the most important role any human being can play, because it's about bringing up the next future generation. The next second most important role that I play, and I like to talk about roles, people talk about hats. I don't wear a hat, I wear a scarf. So I talk about my multiple scarves. So the second one is I'm an educator. I was actually a school teacher for 10 years before I did my PhD and became a scientist. But even as a scientist, we are all educators, right? Because we teach at the university and we inspire our students. And so the second most important role is being a teacher, because our students, if they're not in their homes, being taken care of parents, they're actually at school with a teacher. So my hat off to all wonderful, amazing teachers around there in the world. My third scarf or role is I'm a scientist. I work on genetics of ethnic populations and epigenetics of trauma, as was mentioned. And that led me to new frontiers. So because of the research, I was compelled to help spearhead establishing a law to control stem cell research and therapy. So sometimes as a scientist, you actually go beyond your comfort zone, beyond the hall and for the classroom and the lab, outside. And this is very, very important to be involved in policy. The fourth role is a social entrepreneur, where I founded We Love Reading, which is going to be the topic of today's talk. The fifth one, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to invite you to read my book, which I will actually share as a PDF with anyone who wants to just send me an email. It was reviewed in Nature. Now, over to the beginning of my story. So, Iqra, as you can see here in the slide, means read. And this is the first word actually in the Quran, and it means read, but not read just to understand how the letters come together and make a sound, but to read to reflect, read to critique, read to change from the inside. It is so important. It's the fundamental thing that helps us survive. So for that reason, I was surprised to realize that children in my neighborhood, in my community, and communities around the world actually don't read for fun. They read only for school, and therefore to them reading is boring or as a chore. And to me, when you read for fun, it widens the imagination and gives you vocabulary to express yourself. Gives you the courage to be the hero you read about, teaches you empathy to learn about other cultures, and many, many, many more. So how do we help children fall in love with reading, right? Because they don't love to read. There's no passion. And what I found out through research is that it's by having a role model, a parent, a mother or a father or a caregiver who reads aloud to the child every day, even as early as when the mother's pregnant. Because as the child's brain is developing and those neurons are making connections, there's reading becomes associated with the feeling of security and happiness that is coming from being with a caregiver or a parent. So when you grow up, you want to read. It gives you a good feeling inside. Whether you're sad or you're happy, you want to read. And so because of that, I thought, okay, I found the solution. It's about having parents read aloud to children. However, it's impossible to go around and knock on every door and ask every parent to read aloud, or for the government to pass a law. So I thought the least I can do is for me to start reading aloud in my neighborhood to the children in their native language. And that was how We Love Reading started. And our mission is changing mindsets through reading to create and nurture change makers, whether it's the children or the adults who are reading aloud to the children. And so what we did is we created a training program that trains people on why reading for fun is important, how to read aloud as an art, how to choose a good book, and then how to start a reading aloud library in your own neighborhood. And to read regularly in that public space of your choice. So when I started reading, I was reading in the mosque because that's the normal thing in Jordan. Every neighborhood has a mosque. But then others, as they picked up, they were reading in churches, in community centers, under a tree, or on the stairs of an apartment building, wherever they feel comfortable, because they know better where to read. Now, these people who graduate from our program, we call them We Love Reading ambassadors, and we trust them because we know they know best where to read and how to read and when to read. But we realized that We Love Reading was not just about reading for children and having fun. That improves what they do at school. And improves their literacy, but it was also about their mental health because they're sitting with someone who's reading to them in real time, a real person, and that human-human interaction is so important. We also realized it was also about the adults themselves who are majorly women, who suddenly also their mental health improved, their resilience increased, their life satisfaction, but more importantly, they became leaders in their own community, social entrepreneurs, figuring out, oh my God, if I can read to the children in my neighborhood and I change their lives, what else can I do? Now, all these ambassadors, as we call them, are volunteers. Nobody pays them, but they keep on doing it because they feel this feeling of agency and belonging and responsibility towards their community. Now, We Love Reading has spread wide. It's today in 65 countries around the world and counting, so it's been called a social movement. And we've developed an app so people can not just take the training online because, especially during COVID and to reach more places. And the training is in multiple languages now. But so if anyone out there wants to start We Love Reading, please reach us and together we can translate it into your local language because local language is so important so that a child really falls in love with reading and it's easy. But also we're creating a virtual community. So ambassadors around the world can talk to each other, help each other, support each other in a peer-to-peer fashion. And we envision as we spread around the world that over time, our organization, We Love Reading, will disappear. Other organizations and people will pick it up, and then eventually it will become commonplace in the community. as it spreads like a good virus to everyone. And this is a picture of one young girl who I read to back in 2006. Now she's a university graduate, sharing how reading has made her life totally different. We also scale deep. So the impact is not just the person who is being trained, but all the people around her, whether it's her family, the children she reads to in her neighborhood, or the wider community. And this is important to create this ripple effect of change. And the reason we have been able to succeed is because we have our secret sauce, we call it, versus other organizations who haven't been able to succeed, in the sense that when they run out of money, they have to close the project and it's not sustainable. But in our case, it is sustainable because the women and men our youth who are trained are volunteers. So they don't do it for us, they don't do it for the money, they do it for themselves. And this agency, this feeling of ownership and responsibility, is the secret sauce. And it turns people from being hopeless, waiting for something to happen and being victims, to taking control and agency and building their resilience and take control of their lives. And that shift is so important in their psychology to become leaders and change makers. And that's what We Love Reading does. So many international NGOs would tell us, you don't pay people to read aloud. They said, you won't succeed. And we smiled, and we did succeed. We have people who are reading 7 and 8 years after they took the training, and nobody's paying them. So that's our secret sauce. And we're scaling up. So we work with governments. So in Jordan, we're working with the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Development, where we've actually launched a national campaign for We Love Reading. And the Prime Minister announced September 29, which is coming up as the International Reading Day in Jordan. So we're talking about systems change, right? And not just Band-Aids and patches. Because if we're going to change the world, we need to find those pivotal root causes. And it's only the local people, the proximate leaders like you and me, who understand our own communities and can come up with solutions. But this means shifting concepts of leadership, organizational structure, how we fund, how we scale, and how we measure. So speaking of measurement, we're all scientists, right? So although I'm a molecular biology, I work on epigenetics. I wanted to understand, what is the impact of We Love Reading on the children, not just to appreciate it, but also to learn how we can do it better. And so first we wanted to study what is the impact of the program on children's behavior. So we partnered with other scientists. I'm a molecular biologist, so I wouldn't know how to do this. So I partnered with psychologists, education specialists, anthropologists from various universities around the world and locally, to ask a few questions, right? First, we wanted to understand, how does We Love Reading improve children's literacy and attitudes towards reading? And we were able actually to show that it does in a randomized control trial over a period of 3 months, and then over a year, the change was sustainable. And all this was published in peer-reviewed journals that you can find on our website. We also worked with Brown University and presented at MIT and showed that also that executive function of children, like working memory, inhibitory control, and emotional regulation, which are 3 functions that actually make children do better at school, all improved compared to controls as a result of being engaged with We Love Reading. And we found that the effects were largest on children coming from lower socioeconomic status. And it had an impact on the high socioeconomic status as well. But we showed that you can actually take children and families out of poverty just by reading aloud once a week. So simple solutions with large impact on the long run. We also went further. We said, okay, as we choose the books that we read aloud to children in their native language, can we change the children's behavior? So we created a whole series about the environment, water, energy conservation, and anti-littering, and then measured how the children's attitudes change. And we showed also statistically significant changes in children's behavior, which we published as well. So again, instead of expensive billboards and TV ads, you could just sit with a child and read aloud and make a difference. We also made books about empathy, gender, disabilities, and we also measured how their empathy actually improved 100-fold as a result of being engaged in We Love Reading. All this was published, as I said, and accessible. We also looked at emotional perception. So children, especially who had gone through strife trauma of war or other kinds of trauma, their emotional perception shifts more to the negative. And we were able to show through We Love Reading that we were able to bring it back to normal. We also were studying the parent-child interaction, right? Not just the child alone, because it's always with a physical person. So we're working with NYU Abu Dhabi, trying to understand that parent-child relationship. So that data is still coming. We also went to look at not just women reading aloud, but men. And we showed through a master's thesis of a student from London University how the men's attitudes changed. And then finally, we came to my research. So we were finally able to marry the biology with the literacy and behavior and mental health. So we know that as humans, our phenotype is a combination, an interplay of our genetics and the environment around us. And so we partnered with Michael Kober from Vancouver University, who has developed a pediatric epigenetic aging clock. And so this measures how fast a human being ages. And this is for children. And of course, that relates to intrinsic factors, physical, social environment around us. And the outcome of that clock affects aging. So we wanted to understand, how can an intervention like We Love Reading help de-accelerate an aging clock for children who have been, whether genetically or because of exposure to trauma. And so we did another randomized control trial trying to understand that effect. And again, we collected our samples, we're analyzing them, so stay tuned. Lastly, we wanted to look at the impact on adults, on women, especially, who were part of We Love Reading. Whether it was a woman who We Love Reading for her was a way to rehabilitate after cancer, or an older woman, 70 years old, who actually went back and learned how to read so she could read aloud to the children, or men with disabilities, how they were able to find a purpose reading aloud to the children. And we had a theory of change showing that work role salience, relational importance, and empowerment mediated through resourcefulness and empathy actually led to motivation to lead and leadership identity in these women. So we partnered with the Boston University, Yale University in Hong Kong, and we're able to show that well-being and general life satisfaction levels all increased among those who were participating in We Love Reading. And actually, a documentary was made about one of our volunteers. Her name is Esma. She is a Syrian refugee from Zaatari camp. This movie has been winning multiple awards. It was recently being screened in Berlin. And again, those who are interested can screen it at their university or in their organization and be part of this movement of creating more and more ambassadors, empowered women who are making a difference. And we created a children's book to go with it as well. Lastly, we looked at the impact on the community as a whole, to shift from a mindset of, I'm waiting for the government to save me, I'm waiting for somebody to help me, to a mindset of, I don't need anyone, I can take control and make a difference and start demanding change. And whether that happened in Jordan or Uganda or Vietnam, it's a change that's going over the world. So why and how is We Love Reading innovative? First, we have that secret sauce, as I said, that makes people feel responsible and have agency. It's about building a structure, a framework that is built on shared universal values, yet it celebrates the diversity of humans because everybody reads in their own language and decides where and how to read. And this reflects our biology, nature, right? We have DNA that's a unified molecule, but we are all unique and different. But we built on trust, right? Trust between people that they know best to do what is good for their community. And we use technology in a way that serves us rather than us being slaves to technology, because we don't use digital books to read to children. We use real books with real people, but we use digital technology to connect peers and ambassadors around the world. So because of this grassroots movement, it's human-centered. We are very niche and focused. And based on research, we have been able to win multiple awards and spread all over the world, as you can see. And these are some of our latest numbers. We're actually up to 8,000 trainees now, and more than 500,000 children, and distributed more than almost 300,000 books around the world. And recently, we actually presented at the UN, at the General Assembly in New York, in the Transforming Education Summit, which is the first time the UN actually holds an education summit, about different ideas stemming from the people, proximate leaders on the ground, bottom up rather than top down. And this report is called Pathways to Transforming Education, Proven Solutions from Social Entrepreneurs. And this is presented by Catalyst 2030, which I urge you to join. It's a movement of social entrepreneurs around the world working with academia. And I'm head of the MENA region and the Jordan chapter, and we're creating academic hubs. And so this is something where us can connect as well. So I will end with the chaos theory, which is a theory in physics, which says when a butterfly flutters its wings in one part of the world, it moves the air a centimeter, but the result is change beyond time and space that we can imagine. And so be the butterflies of change and change the world. There's a book that talks about We Love Reading that is freely available on our website. And we urge you to check our social media and website. And I'm available for questions now or after. And please reach out to us. Thank you very, very much. And please, now that you know about We Love Reading, you have to share it with everyone around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dajani. That was a very nice presentation on the activities you're doing, especially in promoting literacy amongst children. So I can see some comments in the chat where everybody is interested in your book, and there are some partners who are interested in, potential partners who are interested in working with you as well. So as we are introducing the next speaker, we'll also try and move this, direct the questions to you so that you can answer them directly in the chat. Without further ado, our second speaker is Miss Wezi Nyimbili. And Ms. Wezi Nyimbili is an aerospace engineer, and she's representing us. She's the representative of OWSD from the Zambia chapter. So Ms. Wezi Nyimbili is an aerospace engineer working as a lecturer at the Copperbelt University in Zambia. Her area of expertise lies in aircraft structures, aircraft design, and engineering education. In collaboration with her network and members of other universities in Zambia, Wezi has been able to conduct research that helps solve challenges in engineering education. She has also played a key role to the growth of the aeronautical engineering program at the Copperbelt University by analyzing and upgrading the program's curriculum and developing a student placement program with aviation stakeholders. Her current research work is looking at reducing the carbon footprint of aircrafts by developing new techniques of designing aircraft wings. Wezi is the chairperson of the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World Zambia chapter, and she is a professional member of the Engineering Institution of Zambia and an active member of the Zambia Women in Engineering section. She is also a co-founder and coordinator of the Zambia Spelling Bee. She believes the Zambian Spelling Bee is a program that equips learners at an early age in their education with fundamental tools to achieve success. This is done by providing a platform for learners to improve their writing, reading, and cognitive skills, develop study skills, and improve and instill confidence. Wezi enjoys her work as it gives her a satisfaction of empowering women and girls in different areas, especially in STEM. And it also gives her an opportunity to learn from other women through collaborative research and professional networking. Over to you, Wezi.
All right. Thank you so much, Joy. Is it possible if I can share a screen as well?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
All right.
We are seeing your desktop.
Uh-oh.
Perfect. We can see you. You may switch on your video and continue.
All right. Let me just. Is it a full screen?
Yes. No, it's not on full screen yet.
And now?
All right. There it is. Now click on the icon. Yes. Just click at the bottom so that you can make it as full. Yes, now it's on full screen.
All right. Thank you so much, Joy. And thank you for the introduction. I don't think I'll go back to the introduction. I just want to thank everyone for joining. This day is an important day for all of us. As the earlier speaker says, I think literacy is more like an open door to a lot of opportunities. And as OWSD Zambia, we believe in that, and we think that it is important that women especially and our girls get the opportunity to get the literacy into their system or into their curriculum as early as possible. And therefore, as OWSD Zambia, we've been able to collaborate with different partners. And currently, our partner that we're collaborating with, that's Zambia Spelling Bee, deals mostly with literacy for kids. And as everyone knows that Spelling Bee is mostly about learning words, trying to get the children into enjoying the spirit of reading or spelling, or actually understanding the actual word and what it means. And I'm thrilled to hear that the theme under UNESCO, I just read it yesterday, was promoting literacy for a world in transition, building the foundation for a sustainable and peaceful society. And for us to build a sustainable society and peaceful society, I think it is right that we start with the children. We start with the young ones who will later be able to grow and do better things, empower them, and so that they may be able to give us a peaceful society and be able to do more things in life. So the main objective of Zambia Spelling Bee is to develop a reading habit among its leaders. It is also to encourage the reading for pleasure. And I think the earlier speaker mentioned that most of the times our children usually think of reading as a task. It's never for fun. So Zambia Spelling Bee hopes to encourage the learners to read for pleasure. It also wants to develop a culture of reading in schools. If we see mostly our libraries, if I can give an example of Zambia, our libraries are dying out. We are mostly concentrating on the internet or the ebooks and all that. But for a child to gain the specific skills that are needed, I think we need to give them what they can see, what they can feel, and what they can imagine. So if we give this to our kids, especially at an early age, I think this would be a very good start. Zambia Spelling Bee also wants to mobilize internal partners to support the project. So it's a small group at the moment, but we're looking for more partners to help expand the Spelling Bee. So how the Spelling Bee is organized, for instance, in Zambia, we start with the schools, so home and schools. So when we mean home, we mean the parents. Mostly children are usually in contact with the parents. And apart from that, they go to school, spend most of their hours in school. So we start first by bringing in the homes and the schools, that's their teachers, to give them this understanding of how important the Spelling Bee is. So the Spelling Bee happens in schools, then it moves on to a district level, then you move on to a provincial level, and then to a national level. And finally, we are part of African Spelling Bee as a continent where the competition goes on. So what do we expect from all this, the process of them learning new words, understanding new words? It helps kids to just, gain the understanding of new words. When I'm a mother, and I remember the first time my child could read, it was so enlightening. It's like they learn to speak first before they can actually know how to read. So the moment she was able to realize how to pronounce certain words, there was just that light in her to say, all right, this is the word that I've been using, but I didn't really understand what it meant or how to spell it. So the process in preparing the kids for a spelling bee is a comprehensive process. They get to understand what the definition of a word is. They get to know how to pronounce it properly, and the root, like where it came from, how it came about and all. It also enhances their vocabulary. You find that they're able to use words in a proper way, or use synonyms and make sentences in different ways. It also helps them to develop cognitive skills. So the process of preparing for a spelling bee you tend to thrive under pressure. Kids tend to stand in front of everyone on a stage, and that can be a lot of pressure, just as it is for us when we are presenting something. So imagine if we can empower our girls at an early stage to be able to withstand certain pressure. I think as they go on, it will be a very good advantage. So the other cognitive skills they can learn from this is that they will be able to have a good memory, which is quite a skill, because you'll be able to use it in further education, and it will benefit them in improving their learning skills. It also gives them the confidence. You can imagine, I remember when I was making my first presentation in university to a panel of professors, I was a wreck. And I was about 18 or something like that. But if you start it earlier, I think kids quickly catch on things, and I think they are able to get the confidence early and will be able to thrive and be public speakers. So what we have done is that for this program to work, the Zambia Spelling Bee to work, I mentioned that the biggest challenge, or the first step we had to do is going to the homes and the schools. But in Zambia, most of the schools are run by the Ministry of Education. So the first step that we had to do to get into the system is to integrate the Ministry of Education, who would be able to help us transfer all the information we have on Zambia Spelling Bee to the different schools. So it's more like integrating the Spelling Bee competition into the education curriculum, but without disturbing the actual curriculum. So the Spelling Bee can only work if we have the schools involved, as this is a competition for children. And for the Zambia Spelling Bee, we specify the grade group from grade 4 to grade 11. So anyone between this is able and eligible to participate in a Spelling Bee. So some of the challenges that we've had is selling this idea, firstly to the Ministry of Education, and secondly to the parents and schools. So it's always a challenge when you're trying to make people understand an idea that they're not so familiar with. So it needed a lot of training, a lot of sensitization, both to schools, their teachers, and their parents. And the biggest encouragement would come from parents, in the sense that before a child can be able to participate in a Spelling Bee, you need to get consent from the parents. So the parents are also important in this development, because they are able to encourage their students. That is only after they understand the importance of the Spelling Bee. So some of the benefits of reading and spelling is that we find that we help our children, get the activity into their system. So they will be often reading, and they'll end up getting better at it. It's also fun for them when you bring out a book for a child. The first thing they'll see are pictures in it, and they'll ask questions around that. So if we can engage a child in reading books, telling stories, as the earlier speaker mentioned, and this will be able to exercise their brain, and they'll be able to gain more concentration and develop their imagination as well. It also, as I mentioned, it's also a way of improving vocabulary. And in other ways, people say that kids are the meanest people. But when they read and understand how people feel in a certain way, when they behave in a certain way, they end up developing empathy. And it also improves their concentration. So we've had some achievements over the years as Zambia Spelling Bee, as you can see from those pictures. So through the vigorous process of engaging the teachers, the learners, and the Ministry of Education, we were able to attend the first African spelling bee that Zambia Spelling Bee participated, and we managed to get a first prize under the senior level. And as you can see from the pictures, our girls are quite interested in spelling bee and are doing very well in what they do. We've also managed to get partners who are coming on board to help support the Zambia Spelling Bee. And it's been a challenge in the sense that there is a lot of financial support that is needed, because you want to spread the word and you want the information about a spelling bee to reach all corners of Zambia. For instance, you have remote areas, but we are happy to say that we've increased in number, especially when it comes to the teachers who want to participate in the Zambian Spelling Bee, and they've been able to help conduct spelling bees at district level or in schools at first. And the other achievements that we have seen is that the schools that have incorporated spelling bees into their school activities have been able to improve their libraries. They have been able to get books from sponsors, and above all, their kids seem to be doing well in terms of schoolwork, not only in English, but also in other subjects. And you can see that the word literacy really is more than just knowing how to read and write. It is like just once you realize what you're able to do with reading and writing, you find that you have more doors opening. You are able to understand your do's and your don'ts and how to just improve your life generally. And kids, usually in Zambia, we have a saying that says, imiti kula empanga. In direct translation, it means growing trees at the forest. So if we put in more at an early stage, we realize as the kids grow on, they get into the system and will be able to continue making the whole society a sustainable place to live in. So I am very glad to hear about what the first speaker was talking about how they are trying to encourage reading in different parts of the world. And I think this is what we need to continue doing. We need to continue organizing. We need to continue discussing. We need to continue collaborating. And this is the only way that we can reduce the illiteracy levels that we are facing, especially towards the girls and the women. And of course, illiteracy is at different levels, but I think starting the discussions or the collaborations at an early age will give us a head start in achieving higher literacy levels. And I think I'll end on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wezi. That's a very insightful presentation of how you're you're encouraging literacy through your project on the spelling bee. If there are any questions to the participants, please put it in the chat as we prepare for the last speaker who is going to take us through the activities they're doing in South Africa. So our last speaker is, just a second. Our last speaker is from South Africa, the OWSD chapter in South Africa, and this is Dr. Awelani Mutshembele. Dr. Awelani is a specialist scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, tuberculosis platform, and she has an experience in molecular biology, focusing on technologies for diagnostics and treatment. Her area of expertise lies in structural epidemiology, genetic diversity, prediction of antimicrobial resistance, and bioinformatic analysis of different organisms, including Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Dr. Awelani supervises and mentors PhD and MSc and undergraduate students registered in several universities in the University of Technology in South Africa, Cameroon, and Ethiopia. Dr. Awelani was also involved in a wastewater project that focuses on the detection of SARS-CoV-2 in a South African wastewater treatment plantation partnered with the Centers for Vaccines and Immunology and the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. Dr. Awelani and collaborators from Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa recently received the 5th BRICS Multilateral Joint Science and Technology Research Collaboration Grant, supported by the South African Medical Research Council and the Department of the Science and Innovation. And Dr. Awelani is a member of the South African Medical Research Council Capacity Development Committee, Early Investigator Committee, and the EXCO member of the Organization for Women in Science and in the Developing World, the South African National Chapter. Dr. Awelani is also an early career researcher for the Nature Communications Peer Review Mentoring Program and the National Research National Research Fund National Research Fund Council Peer Reviewer. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Dr. Awelani, who is going to take us through the activities that she has been working on in South Africa, and most importantly, that OWSD South Africa has been working on in promoting literacy within the country and with their partner, and also with their partners. Over to you, Dr. Awelani.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me share my screen.
Yes, we can see you. Please continue.
Hey, I really love to thank UNESCO for introducing the Literacy Day, because we can see that this is very important, since illiteracy is a global problem that needs to be attended and people to understand why people need to be educated, and not only just anyone, everybody, because we know that if we, as women, we're pillars, and as strong women, we bring the strong nation. So together we can work together and bring the strong nation that will understand that education is the better, it's a good thing to go through and plays a big role in our lives. And we know very well that this illiteracy has a severe economic, social, and personal consequences. Illiterate individuals are often marginalized, have limited access to employment opportunities, and face difficulties in accessing critical information and services. Gender also plays a significant role in illiteracy. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by illiteracy, especially in developing countries. Cultural norms, lack of educational opportunities, early marriage, and sociality expectations often limit girls' access to education. This gender disparity perpetuates cycles of poverty and disempowerment. Illiteracy compounds the challenges that women face. It restricts their ability to make informed decisions about their health, family planning, and financial matters. Illiterate women are more vulnerable to exploitation, abuse, and discrimination. So I'll take you through to what we are facing on here in South Africa. We consist of amazing women from various disciplines, and we focus on different programs that we divide to each other according to our understanding. Firstly, we also have community engagement. Here, OWSD, South African National Chapter, actively engage with local communities, especially in underserved areas, to promote literacy and education. We conduct workshops, seminars, and reading sessions to improve access to quality education, particularly for women and girls. Our programs include literacy workshops. These workshops focus on enhancing reading and writing skills, emphasizing the importance in education and personal development. STEM literacy initiatives, STEM standing for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We introduce science, technology, engineering, and mathematics concept to young learners, encouraging them to explore these fields. We also university collaborations, partnering with universities. OWSD SA National Chapter reaches out to young female students to foster their interest in STEM subjects. We also organize guest lectures. Eminent female scientists and educators deliver inspiring talks to motivate university students to pursue careers in science and technology. And mentorship programs. Our organization facilitates mentorship programs connecting students with established women in science, offering guidance and support. We also have research and publication program. We believe in the power of knowledge dissemination. OWSD SA National Chapter encourage women researchers to publish their work, making valuable contribution to the global body of knowledge, and scholarship opportunities to further promote literacy and higher education. We offer scholarship and grants to deserving women pursuing STEM discipline. How does our organization here in South Africa align with Literacy Day? International Literacy Day celebrated on today underscores the importance of literacy as a foundation for lifelong learning. So here, outreach programs directly align with this mission. We make sure that literacy for empowerment by enhancing literacy skills among women and girls. We empower them to pursue careers in science, breaking gender barriers in traditionally male-dominated fields. Education is a powerful catalyst for personal and social development. OWSD efforts contribute to nurture a more informed and skilled workforce. We promote STEM education. Our focus on STEM literacy ensures that women have access to the knowledge and skills required for the jobs of the future. And we encourage lifelong learning. Mentorship, scholarship programs support women in their pursuit of higher education, emphasizing the importance of continuum. We're in the process of launching a OWSD, a South African National Chapter mentorship program. This is at an advanced stage, as we already have more than 70 willingly potential mentors secured. The mentorship program is a crucial step in fostering and supportive environment for young women scientists to pursue of academic and research excellencies. In conclusion, literacy and prejudice against women are deeply intertwined challenges that have serious consequences for individuals and societies. Addressing both issues requires a multifaceted approach that includes improving access to education for women and girls, challenging discriminatory norms and practices, and fostering gender inequalities aspects of life. These efforts are critical for creating a more equitable and just, where all individuals, regardless of their gender, have the opportunities to reach their full potential. Thank you very much. Due to time constraint, I'll end up here. And I also like to acknowledge our team members that we work together here in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies. We've had these amazing presentations from the OWSD chapter members from South Africa, Zambia, and also Jordan, and all the amazing activities that they're doing. And I can see some of the comments from in the chat with Kenneth Okot saying that literacy at an early age is very critical. And they wanted to know from South Africa if there are any connections that you have. This is for Awelani, if you have any connections and contacts that you intend to work with in Kenya at some point. And there's a question again for Awelani. How can we join ASAF to participate in mentoring and empowering girls in the hinterland where reading and mentoring is also needed? And for Professor Dajani, the interest was in the book and how we could partner. So to be on the safe side, could you please, could the speakers put their email addresses in the chat so that we are able to, the participants are able to access will have access to you. And then and from Miss Wezi Nyimbili in Zambia, the comments that are coming up on the spelling bee and also the sustainability of reading. There is a question from Felicitas Ratanya where she says, what efforts have you made to ensure more libraries are established? Let me read that properly. What efforts have you made in ensuring more libraries are established in supporting and sustaining reading? So let's start with you, Wezi, then Awelani, on how you can expand the program beyond ASAF, and Professor Dajani on how you can, how we can have access to the book. So let's start with you, Wezi.
Hello. So thank you for the question. So as we know, okay, for instance, in Zambia, the fact that we have reduced on libraries and, or let me say the existence of libraries has reduced, or the number of books that we have in schools have reduced. This is where we come up with collaborating with the Ministry of Education and other partners. So the biggest challenge is that, you know, in schools within the city, it's easier to access books and all that. But the challenge comes in areas in far-fetched areas, rural areas, for instance. That's where the biggest challenge is. So for Zambia Spelling Bee as an NGO, because we are small at the moment, we have collaborators who are able to make donations, and we hope these donations can go a long way in you know, starting the process of enlightening girls or pupils in rural areas. So we hope that we continue collaborating. And the other thing that the Zambian Spelling Bee is planning to do is develop an initiative of donate a book for a child. So this means that anyone who is able to donate something that can go a long way for sustaining learning or reading and writing for the kids in rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Awelani, are you able to answer the question on how you can expand beyond South Africa? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Remember, OWSD is from, we can say, everywhere in Africa, and we really need to explore other countries that they don't have the organization. So for now, there was a conference for other countries, neighboring countries, Zambia and Zimbabwe, and also in Namibia. So we're still going to explore other neighboring countries that are also interested, that they also got members that they want to join. For now, you can just drop us an email and tell us that you really need how to go about it. We can also assist and make sure that we are together. We work together. Everywhere you are, you can be able to join within your country or anywhere you want to be. Or if you are here in South Africa, you can join us. Also, I'll also drop out the email for OWSD, or you can check it on the website, OWSD South African National Chapter. We also got Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us and join and find out more and explore and share with other people. To join ASAF, also you can go to www.asaf.org. You can join there too. It's very good for young scientists, for those who are doing their work on science, on STEM. They can be also assisted with the scholarships and also how to write and mentorship. So you are welcome to join.
Thank you so much. And we are winding up. And there is no better way for me to wind up but reinforce what Dr. Awelani was saying. So I'll just reread her conclusion, which really makes sense and it pretty much not only makes sense, but also highlights what all the speakers have been talking about. And that is illiteracy and prejudice against women, especially women, are deeply intertwined challenges that have serious consequences for individuals and societies. So when we are addressing both issues, we require a multifaceted approach that includes improving access to education for women and girls, challenging discriminatory norms and practices, and fostering gender equality in all aspects of life. These efforts are critical for creating a more equitable and just world where all individuals, regardless of their gender, have the opportunity to reach their full potential with the support of literacy. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for making it to today's webinar. It was very concise, talking about what the efforts of our partners, the OWSD, are working on in their respective countries in promoting literacy. We've had some amazing, Professor Dajani has shared with us the amazing activity she's working on, encouraging children on how to read through the program We Love Reading, and also from Miss Wezi Nyimbili's program on the spelling bee, the Zambia spelling bee, and also from the activities that Dr. Awelani is working on that are promoting literacy amongst women in South Africa. Without further ado, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time, and I really thank you so much for making time to take part in this webinar, and you will get a recording of this webinar, including the presentations. And with that, goodbye for now. Bye, everybody.